Yeah, extremely tough. Obviously, I was released at 14 by Chelsea, something that I didn't expect at all. You know, it was all I ever knew as a kid. You know, it was my whole life, you know, going there, training, the mates I'd met. And honestly, I felt like that was it. You know, I was gutted. I mean, my dad coming home telling me after school, but somehow, I don't know what happened. I feel like clubs let on, and obviously other clubs find out before you get released about, you know, whether you're going to be released or not. And that night I actually went and trained with Fulham. The night I got released.
Straight back on the bike?
The day I got released, I went and trained with Fulham that night on a Wednesday. And then on the Thursday I was at West Ham. My dad drove me to Chapel Heath, and you know, obviously I was gutted, but I needed to kick on and push again. I think the fact that, like you said there, that was a big one about it, was the embarrassment of it. You know, how do you tell your friends that you've been released by Chelsea? That was a tough one. Also shock, obviously upset, obviously being, like I said, Chelsea as a kid, it was all I ever knew. So I thought, where am I going to go? What am I going to do from here? I've had conversations with kids in the academy at West Ham, just in terms of, you know, general stuff about whether they're going to be leaving to go on loan or whether they're not going to get a new deal at West Ham. Obviously they're a bit older than I was, but I feel like I've been in that position before. I know what it's like and I know the experience. So if I can help anyone and give them my advice on it and give them my support, I'll always try and do that.
Would your advice be just off what you did? I mean, you straight away went and played at other clubs. Would you just say go back, you know, carry on playing straight away, get on with it type thing?
Yeah,
that's the best thing to do.
100%, yeah, because, you know, for me as a kid, all I ever wanted to be was a footballer, whether that was in any league. And, you know, I was going to really push myself and give it everything I can to make sure I could have the career that, you know, I wanted as a child.
Why at 14, looking back now, would Chelsea let the player that you are now go?
Honestly, to this day, I still honestly don't know the exact reason. I wish I did. I think it was probably down to the fact that when I was a kid, I was actually tiny. I was going through a massive growth spurt at the time. You know, my body wasn't all connected together. My running pattern was really weird. Technical ability was fine, but in terms of the physical aspect of it, the running, I was struggling. I couldn't keep up with other kids, and I think maybe in the end, maybe that was a thing that they thought that I couldn't probably grow out of. But I feel like, you know, everything happens for a reason. And, you know, maybe if I stayed at Chelsea and got that contract, I might not be where I am today.
I asked you about Declan Rice, and he'd only played a couple of games, and you said he's the real deal.
Yeah, well, I didn't say at the time, Cammy, that he would probably take my armband at some point. From the moment I see him in pre-season training one season, I knew that was going to happen. If there was one person that was going to captain West Ham after me, and I was going to probably watch for the last 18 months of my career in my position, it would be him. In ways, I see him more as a brother than I do. I say son, but I've got a son that's 12 and Deck's a bit older than him. But he's just such a good player, such a good person. He's a better person than his player, and that's going some, Cammy. You know what I mean?
Mm.
One of the things I think I like in the book when you talk about him, when he first got involved and he loved the banter, he loved you lot sort of getting into him. He had a real confidence in training. But when he started playing those first few games, there was a couple of games, I think he got taken off at half time and he'd made a few mistakes. But he wore those mistakes really well. He didn't struggle with the mistakes. He didn't go into himself. He sort of took ownership of those mistakes and was happy to accept the criticism and go, right, I'm going to learn from that, rather than thinking, I'm not good enough for this.
It needs to happen, Ben. Like, when you're playing at that level, it needs to happen. You need to have that experience of making mistakes, because I say to the young boys in the academy now, and football is ruthless. Like, everyone sees it glamorised and what comes out of football, because there is only a small minority of the world's population that can play at that level.
So you moved to West Ham at 14, which is, just tell everybody, how far is it away from here?
Well, it's about 2 hours away. Obviously, I was living at home with my mum and dad, and it was basically a whole new life. You know, Fulham offered me a contract, West Ham offered me a contract. With Fulham, I could have gone to school locally, stayed at home. Or West Ham, it was move school, move into digs. Obviously, not getting to see my parents was really tough. At the start, it was horrible. My mum even come up to West Ham to the digs, and she wanted to drag me out because I'd call her up upset. You know, I was really struggling because I'm so close to my family. But there was no reason for me not to love it. It's the digs where obviously Carrick grew up, Defoe, everyone. It's the famous digs that everyone obviously all speaks about. And it's unique because there's actually, on a full night, there's 22 boys in one house. Like, it is split into two. So there was nothing for me not to love about it. It was just more the fact that I wasn't getting to see my parents. When I was playing football, I was fine. It was just always dreading going back to the house because it wasn't home. But once I got out of that mindset, it becomes so much easier. And as I got older as well, I actually now really miss it. And that's what I think that's what life goes like, to be honest with you.
To be honest with you, you've had two massive like setbacks, haven't you? There, rejection from Chelsea to cope with, and then you've had to leave home and go to another club straight away.
Yeah.
How does a young person prepare for that? I know no one feels sorry for football players, and no one's going to feel sorry for Declan Rice. You're playing for England, you're playing for West Ham, but it would have been massively tough at that time, wouldn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I think as a 14-year-old as well, you're so young at 14 to deal with all that and do all that on your own was really tough. But I feel like me going to West Ham, it kind of turned me into a man. You know, I had to start doing stuff for myself at a young age. I had to start, you know, depending on myself.
When was the first point at West Ham that you thought, I've got a chance of being a football player here?
Probably the first time I got on the bench, but it was always really tough for me at West Ham, because even West Ham, it's a crazy story, because they were actually going to release me as well, and I don't think no one knows that. At 16, and I don't think I've ever spoke about this. It was a 50-50 decision. Half the coaches were saying keep him on, and half the coaches were saying we're not too sure. We're not too sure what's going to happen. When we played a game against Fulham, I was 16. I played up for the under-18s that day. I played at centre half, and Terry Wesley, after that, he gave me my scholarship. But there were 5 other lads that had a 1-year scholar and a 3-year pro, so I only ever got a scholarship to start with.
What was that, a 1 year or 2 year?
So that was a 2-year scholarship. There were 5 lads that got a 1-year scholar, 3-year pro.
And the promise of professional.
Yeah, and that was a guaranteed pro for them.
But that's like a rejection as well, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
That used to happen at United sometimes. You get lads that got 2-year YTS and pro, but some of us would just get a YTS.
Yeah. Do you know what, for me, I felt like with the 5 boys that got their pro, and obviously me that only had a scholar, it was in my mind, once I got that, I need to now work towards getting that pro contract. So I had something that I was always pushing for. I was always driving myself on to get better, doing extra work. And then once I got my first pro contract, I'd worked so hard for it, I was playing really well, and then I just pushed on again, and I think within a year I signed another pro. But I feel like me not having that pro to start with really did help, you know, because I didn't stay complacent. I was always wanting to get to the next level. I feel like even now, me being where I am, I see kids now, and obviously they're offered pro contracts or they're negotiating pros, and it's like some of the money they're asking for as kids, you think it's crazy.
You can't be saying that at 23.
No, I know. I know, but like, if I hear about stuff at the club, like younger lads, or if I hear about stuff in general, it's like, just because it's what I've been through, you know, what I've kind of been through and what I've had to do, I was happy just to sign a scholarship. I was happy just to sign my first pro. Like, it's such a proud moment just to do that. I feel like money, when you're that age, it should be the last of your worries. Just to sign that first pro contract should be a proud moment in itself, and then you can kick on and push on.
Joe Hart.
Another fruitcake. Like Harty will tell you this. We was at training at the stadium, and he was doing a shooting session. Like, just know where the coach pings it out, you have a touch and finish. And Deck was only, this is when, so Deck must have been like young, 19 at the time. And he's had a touch, and his Deck's got a lovely strike on him, and he's whipped one past Harty, and he's gone, and Harty died for it, didn't get it, and he's like, "Oh, Harty, one day, son," like that, right? Yeah, and Harty went, "Deck, you say that again, I'm going to beat the f*** out of you." Right, and so he's come back to Deck, he's missed one, and he's hit another one, he's gone in, and I said, "Go on, say it." He went, "One day, Harty," like that, mate, and I swear to him, Harty has just left him, sprinted across the pitch, Dex took off down the tunnel, he chased him the whole way around London Stadium, like all windows, got him and beat him up.
When did this beautiful friendship start to blossom?
When I first signed for Chelsea. You was already there before me, weren't you? Yeah,
he was 6, you started, mate.
Yeah, so he started at 6 and I joined at 8. Yeah, we've all got such a close bond, and I think from the first moment we met, you know, we just sparked, and yeah, it's been like that ever since.
That coming in, I think we were just together straight away. We kind of clicked.
We'd get to training, I remember, like, we'd throw down our water bottles, run on, and then it literally be from the first moment we stepped on the pitch, us two would have a ball, like, just passing together, even in the warm-up, like, even in the games, like, we'd be on the same team. And, like, the coaches started to see our relationship, how close we was.
He's the best person to scare, though, because he just jumps out his skin, and obviously you've seen by the video.
I've screamed twice. I still don't get the double scream. Like the double. I still can't believe he posted it though.
Yeah. Well, lucky I did, because it went everywhere and everyone saw it. So.
What was it like when he left?
It was difficult. As we spoke about, family's very close. So I think my mum was crying when she first found out.
My mum and your mum cried
Yeah,
on the phone,
yeah.
together on the phone call. I'm crying on the phone.
So it was a massive moment because I didn't see it coming. I don't think, obviously Dec didn't see it coming, and it's some shock element. But I think Dec speak about it as well. It's probably one of the best things that could happen, because look at him now, look where he is now.
It was tough. It was really tough to take. Like May said, I didn't really expect it. Neither did my family, my dad, mum. But it's one of them ones. Look, if you want to become a professional footballer, you need to, bounce back from it quick. And it was literally the next day I was training at West Ham, and then within 2 sessions...
It was the next day?
Yeah. And then within 2 sessions, Dave Hunt, who was the academy recruitment at the time, offered me a contract, and that was it.
A lot of people only see the surface of it, and not see, as you said, going away, joining a house family at a young age, leaving your family.
So a house family is...
Diggs.
Yeah, so Diggs.
Yeah.
Obviously, Dec was in a house with a lot of other boys. That's what they did at West Ham, and at Chelsea, I moved in with another family.
Made a new best friend.
A picture of him beside my bed at night.
It just occurred to me, actually, I'm sort of seeing mini Lampard, mini Terry, in terms of who your heroes were.
We used to see them a lot.
Yeah, I know.
Obviously, they used to come over and watch us train, or if we played a game. So
remember John Terry used to walk his dogs around the pitch on
so
Sundays?
That must have been distracting.
Because at the time we're like, oh my god, it's John Terry. Like, he's walking the dogs and all the people running over
getting pictures.
Yeah.
What was it like to play for England together?
Yeah, it was a massive achievement, and
because you did it together as much as doing it in itself?
I think both, probably. Dec was already on the pitch when I come on, and it was kind of that special moment where I'm running on and he's already on the pitch and we're playing together.
That England moment for me was special. Like, the ball's on the far side and then I turn around and see him about to come on, and I was thinking, please don't be me to come off. And obviously he's ran on, and then I just had a big beaming smile on my face. We was winning 4-0 and he's run on the pitch to make his debut, and it was everything that I wanted, and it was a great moment.
Back to the West Ham debut, and you're in the team, Old Trafford, second game in, and at that point then, do you feel like you belong?
Yeah, I felt like, obviously I played at Burnley for a couple of minutes the season before, and this was the opening day of the season. I didn't know how the season would go, whether I'd go on loan or whether I'd even play a minute in the first team. I think I went on to play 32 games that season, mixture of starts and coming off the bench. But as soon as I got on the pitch and obviously had my first touches, and I played really well that day actually. I just felt like I'd belong there, and it just felt natural.
What are your early experiences in terms of travelling with the first team and all the things that a young player has to contend with?
Yeah, it's so special, really, really special. The first season I was doing it, I was on the bench like 10 times before I actually made my debut, and I thought, is this moment actually going to come? But the actual experience of travelling, going on the plane with the first team, going on the coach journeys, hotels, like pre-match, the meetings, everything like that, the whole experience of the match day. Going there as kids, you watch footballers getting off the bus, going down the tunnel, like with their headphones on, like just things like that. And you think, wow, like now that's kind of me, and that's the position you want to be in. And obviously at that time I didn't know I'd go on to do what I'm doing now, but I knew that I could really push and have a good career.
You've been a young player at West Ham, obviously for quite some years, but there have been times at West Ham in the last few years, the stadium move, and it has been a little bit moody. It's not always been in favour of the ownership. How has that been for you in terms of obviously being a young player in the dressing room? Do you just sort of forget about that stuff, or does it really hit home, because obviously you are someone who's obviously come through the academy and you've been there and you've sort of loved the club?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's been times at West Ham where it's been awful. I think that season there, season before, it was like a relegation fight. It was awful. Something you obviously didn't want to be a part of. We had a few players in the team that wasn't going their way, turned toxic, and we wasn't getting...
What, in the dressing room it was?
Yeah, just not in the dressing room, weren't turning in terms of individuals, with their ego and things like that. I shouldn't be fighting relegation, etc., not putting the effort in on the pitch, not training well enough. And in the end, I feel like when you're in things like relegation, you need everyone to pull together. You need everyone to be at it, everyone be on the same page. In the end, we did get out of it because Moyes come in and really turned it around. From his first meeting, he literally said, look, if you don't want to be a part of it, you can all go. And everyone was like, right, we're on page here. We got rid of all the toxic ones, and we really pushed on. And since then, since he's come back as well, it's been so positive. The dressing room is probably the best it's ever been that I've been a part of. Training's unbelievable, the backroom staff, I said everyone's on the same page. So the club's going in a really positive direction. I think the main one for me, I've always said it, is that I don't want to have a career where I've not won nothing. You know, I've grown up as a kid, I've seen all these top players win the big trophies, like yourself, win the Premier League so many times, the Champions League. Me as a football fan and also a player, I want to win the best stuff. You know, I want to win the Premier League, I want to lift that trophy, I want to win the Champions League, I want to win the FA Cups, the League Cups, you know, even stuff with England, I want to win it all. As a footballer, I feel like if you've not got that ambition, you know, why are you playing? They're the best moments of your life, you know, when you win them types of trophies. Them special days, you kind of, I've not won nothing yet, but close to obviously with England, but just I thought about it before. It's like, what would that day be like, lifting the trophy, like the day of it, you know, the night out after, the memories you're going to have. So I definitely want to have them experiences of winning trophies and being the best I can be.